So, good morning. Um, I wanted to start, having come back from retreat and being gone for a little while, I wanted to start with the Brahma Viharas and with metta, with loving kindness. And first I took out the sutta, the Metta Sutta, the Buddha's discourse on loving kindness. And then I got to thinking about it, and I took out my playful editing of the discourse to make it kindness toward mind states, so that there's a clarity of focus that you're not just spreading kindness to others, but you're also spreading it internally as well as externally. And then I took out the guest house, Rumi's poem, as Rumi talks about how to do that. And then I was thinking about the opening line of the Metta Sutta, which is, "This is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and knows the path of peace." And then I realized what I really want to talk about is, how do you do that? How do you choose? Um, it's pretty clear that all of us would prefer to choose moment by moment in our lives um, to think and say and do whatever it is that would be good for us, that would be wholesome. Um, I think that our intentions, all of us, are to choose well. And yet we don't. In fact, we often don't. We often choose aversion or desire, wanting or not wanting, we get stuck. If we could make a decision, having read and understood some of what the Buddha is teaching, or some of what is just, sort of intrinsically obvious, that when you do certain things, you physically don't feel so good. There's tension in the body, there's stress in the body, there's discomfort in the body, and in the heart, and in the mind. And we do it anyway. The key question here is, what does the Buddha say needs to be understood as the foundation of the work we do in order to be happy, in order to feel good, in order to have our bodies soft and relaxed and comfortable and content. And the primary thing that the Buddha says is we need to overcome ignorance. We need to see clearly what's true and what's not true. The Buddha was very, very clear and talked many, many times about our delusion that happiness is achieved through, being with the right partner, living in the right house, having the right job, eating the food we love, on and on and on. All the material aspects of how we pursue happiness. And what the Buddha teaches is that we're ignoring that once we achieve something that we want, that we like, we immediately begin worrying about losing it. We begin worrying about, well, I remember reading that this sort of somewhat famous chef, Thomas Keller, saying that the maximum number of bites of food where it still tastes like it originally tastes is 4 bites. Beyond that, your mouth has adapted to it and you're really not getting you're not getting that exciting hit that that first bite gave you. That's a really good description of what happens to us. We achieve something that we want, something in the world, and then all the difficulties begin arising right away. So when we're completely dependent for our happiness on, the material, the physical, the stuff of the world, we end up in a constant roller coaster. Exciting moments, frightening moments, boring moments. There's no steadiness. There's no calm. One of the favorite meaning, it was so valuable for me, teachings that I ever heard came from an ancient Zen teacher who basically said, I'll paraphrase, that happiness is the result of being happy to be alive. Not to have preferences in how the life unfolds, but to see everything as joyous, as amazing, as how could this even be possible? I'm so fortunate to be part of this. So what gets in the way? Well, what gets in the way is the thinking, basically. That's what gets in the way. It's really just thinking. And the way our thinking is focused is on a sense of self. We feel separate. We experience through our senses a sense that these are my senses. They're located right here in the center of the universe, where everything is seen from this location. Everything is heard from this location. It's my mouth that does the tasting. My hands do the work. My legs do the walking. It's obvious I'm a separate self. Oy. you know. Uh, um, these Buddhist teachings have been around for, over 2,500 years. And they've made a dent. They've made a small, small, tiny little dent, which is magnificent. But the clinging to the experience of being separate is so intense and difficult to overcome. Um, so incredibly intense. The ability to see clearly that every experience that arises is completely interconnected and formed and created by a myriad of not just me. There is no seeing without something to see, and without some medium to bring the image of what is being seen to the eye, and without an awareness, a consciousness that seeing is occurring. There are so many elements that are clearly not ours that are involved in seeing, and yet we're very grounded in this experience of ourselves being the subject, the protagonist, the one who matters, and everything else is other, and we're separate. That feeling of separate is very lonely making and very confusing, because as separate, there's like a question of, well, then who's responsible for what? And there, in that confusion, we take on a responsibility for things that have nothing to do with us. And we lose track of being responsible for the things that do have something to do with our actions. And we're just weighted down by this confusion. And we seek to overcome this confusion by figuring things out. That's our method. We create confusion by thinking, and we decide that the solution to the confusion created by thinking is more thinking. It's not. It's not. The antidote to the confusion is mindfulness. And mindfulness, God bless John Kabat-Zinn and his ability to have somehow gotten mindfulness to spread through society. Just an extraordinary human being to accomplish such a thing. But somehow in the process, mindfulness becomes a bit of a slogan. And we lose touch with the simplicity of just paying attention to whatever's going on in the moment. That's all we're talking about. Is, shouldn't you know what the experience that's occurring right now is? Shouldn't you know what your body feels like? What's happening with your body right now as you're sitting? What about what's going on in the mind? What's the texture of the mind? Is it narrow? Is it broad? Is it filled with desire or aversion? What's going on in the mind? Do you find what's going on to be pleasant or unpleasant or boring? Knowing what's occurring in this moment is mindfulness. Absent mindfulness, absent seeing what's going on, we do what we do, which is we try to figure it out. I love the using the metaphor of cinnamon, because to me cinnamon is so vivid. The smell, the taste, the color. When I sprinkle cinnamon on things or as an ingredient in things I'm cooking. There is no cinnamon. It's a word. It's a word in the dictionary. Someone who has never seen or tasted or smelled cinnamon, you can tell them about it and describe it. And you could wax poetic in your description. You could get somebody else who knows cinnamon could turn to you and go, wow, that's like an incredible description. That's so accurate. And the person who has never encountered cinnamon really has no idea. It has no idea. All you've done is provided a bunch of metaphors, similes. It's like this, That's what we do with life. Instead of the direct encounter with our own lives, moment by moment, this is actually what's occurring. This is what it smells like. This is what it tastes like. This is what it looks like. My very life. Instead, we give it a name. I'm this. I'm that. I'm happy. I'm unhappy. I'm tense. I'm nervous. I'm frustrated. I'm delighted. I'm filled with happiness. I'm. When we experience the results of having a consistent practice of mindfulness, we see what's actually going on. Just in the same way, when we take cinnamon and actually smell it and eat it, we know directly what this is. Cinnamon is just a name for it. It's just so we can communicate with each other, which is important. You can't go to the spice department and without being able, you don't want to have to smell each bin. And in the supermarket, you can't even smell the bin. It's just they're in jars. They're closed. You can't smell. You can't anything. Without mindfulness, you can't anything. Without mindfulness, you rely on one thing, habits. Without knowing what is actually going on in this very moment, the only thing you can rely on is habits. Habits form in order to keep us alive, to keep us thriving, to keep us going, to keep our lives going. Some habits, most of them, are, you could call them ancestral. We receive them biologically. through our genetic makeup and the way our genes express as a result of our, our forming, our womb experience, our birth experience. And then there's all the habits that form that are the result of who our caretakers are, who's raising us from the time we're a newborn. And those people have an infinite array of habits that they have formed that you then, that's your dwelling place. Your dwelling as you are, learning what it is to be a member of a human society. From the day you were born on, you're learning it from people who have a vast array of habits. Some you adopt, some you reject, but all of it is designed to keep those people feeding you, to stay alive. It becomes really vivid, very clearly, what it is that pleases your caretakers and what does not. That vast array of habits that you develop from the day of birth through all of your, growing years into adulthood is, it's the toolbox you go to immediately when everything occurs, anything occurs, unless you're mindful. In the Buddha's teaching on dependent origination, the first factor in that teaching is ignorance. Ignorance is the cause of suffering. It's the cause of stress, of anxiety, of all the difficulties of life. And due to ignorance, we then rely on habits, on fabrications. We create an attempt to make a world that we feel comfortable living in. We are constantly attempting to create a world that we feel comfortable living in. And if it had been so that the universe was created in such a way that we could do that, that would be fabulous. That would be fabulous. Each of us would create our own little world, our little bubble that we lived in, and we were happy all the time because anything we didn't like, go. Everything we do like, come on in, join the party. We don't live in that universe. That's not the reality we live in. It's unfortunate. It would be fun if it was. We live in this universe, and this universe is a universe that's co-created by everything in it. Everything in it creates the universe as it is, moment after moment after moment after moment. Your range of choices is actually pretty tiny. You don't have any choice about, having a material body. You don't have any choice about gravity or needing to breathe oxygen. Or, you can go on for like a super long list of all the things that, are just like, yeah, that's what you have. You have to adapt to that. Here's the thing. You don't have to adapt to it. What you have to do is lose the sense of separateness and realize you already are that. That's exactly what you are. You are gravity. You are these bodies. You are the air you breathe, the water you drink, the food you eat. You are the sun and the darkness. You are everything. You are formed by all of this. You are this. This is what you are. It's astounding to be you. It's miraculous to be you. To be a form of aliveness that gets to move around the world and do stuff. We should be dancing in joy all the time. This is an extraordinary gift. This is the absolute product of grace that the universe has in all of its infinite activity. You have formed. Here you are. Wow. I mean, really, wow. Oh, and then you start thinking. And as soon as you start thinking, you begin measuring things. You know, better or worse, nearer or further, higher or lower, wanted in this way by this much or not wanted by that much. And misery arises with all that measurement. Because you would like to go in places that are impossible to go. You know, the phrase that I grew up with, and we all grew up with, I guess, is we want to have our cake and eat it too. It's funny because, like, isn't that what you're supposed to do with cake? Right? It's like, I never got that part. But the understanding of what that means is we want to be living beings in this incredible universe filled with awesome beauty. And then we want everything in the universe to bend to our will. I don't want it to be 8 degrees outside. Somehow or another, I want it to be 60 degrees outside, but I want the snow to stay. Because the snow is really pretty. And wouldn't it be fun to play in the snow if it was 60 degrees outside? It would be great. My happiness dependent on it being 60 degrees outside while there's 2 feet of snow doesn't work. It's only in my imagination that such a thing could be. It doesn't actually exist. The practice of mindfulness is the practice of seeing what actually does exist. And making choices based on what's actually there, rather than choices based on fantasy. Imagining that it's 60 degrees outside, what clothing am I going to put on to go outside and play in the snow? That's how we live our lives. We imagine things that are not actually occurring, that is not actually the way things truly are. And then we prepare ourselves for the imagined instead of for what's true. This whole practice is the practice of seeing what's actually occurring, so that when we make choices, when we prepare ourselves for what's coming next, we're preparing well. We're preparing in attunement with what's truly there. That's a great idea. We should do that. We should definitely attune ourselves to what's actually there, so when we make decisions, we're making decisions based on what's there, not what we're imagining. That's a great idea. It's not an easy one, though. In fact, it's extremely difficult. Take in for a minute the fact that that's part of the universe we live in. That it's actually extremely difficult to see things as they actually are. That it takes a great deal of work, a great deal of effort, and the effort has to be very finely tuned. The effort has to be very focused on seeing things as they are. What supports that effort? What is the tuning that we need? It's love. It's love. This is why I pulled out the guest house, because that's what Rumi is saying in the guest house. He's saying whatever arises in your experience, let it arise in a dwelling of love, of respect, of care, of kindness. Whatever arises, disturbing, supportive, delightful, upsetting, whatever arises, say, oh, hello. I care about you. I'm interested in you. I respect that you have arisen for whatever natural causes created your existence. I'm curious about you. Turning that kind of loving friendship toward whatever arises internally, thoughts and feelings and body experiences, or whatever arises externally, sense experiences, sights and sounds and tastes, and more complex experiences, what's going on in a relationship you have, what's going on in the community you live in the world. When everything is approached as, oh, I need that in my private world, I'm going to grab it and hold it and try to keep it nearby. The actual experience is one of grasping, which is not pleasant. It's not pleasant to be grasping. The object started off as something pleasant, but the grasping causes the whole experience to be unpleasant. And when we push away the unpleasant, when we refuse to interact with it, to see it for what it is, in fact, to respect the unpleasant and say, tell me about yourself. What's it like? What's the universe like from your perspective? Unpleasant experience, unpleasant thought, unpleasant feeling, unpleasant external. When we hold it with respect and caring, with metta, we allow ourselves the time, the energy that we need to see it for what it is. Seeing it for what it is how we know what to choose. If you don't see things for what they are, then your choices are based on a delusion, a story you made up, fabricated, about what this internal or external experience is. And your choices, your decisions, are going to be based on a fabrication instead of on what's true. This is what should be done. The Buddha starts off the Metta Sutta. This is exactly what should be done. Seeing clearly with developing mindfulness what is actually occurring right now. What is the experience of now? And then the second line, skilled in goodness. It's metta. It's loving kindness. It's caring and respect. It's welcoming everything that arises and seeing it for what it actually is. And knowing the path of peace, which is to say, making choices, moment by moment by moment, filled with a boundless love, filled with respect and caring for everything that arises everywhere in the world, in the whole universe, in every moment, so that you can choose, the path of peace. And whose peace are we talking about? Right? We're talking about resting in peace, steady and calm, steady and calm, contented. So let's practice this. Practice welcoming everything that arises while you sit. Practice respect for whatever shows up as arising due to natural causes and deserves caring and respect. Practice this.